how do you rewrite your resume to properly reflect your shipboard experience and give it the credibility that it deserves? And as I was doing research to start preparing for this webinar, I came across this really amazing article that actually I'm going to send it to you, Wilhelmina, so that you can put it in the chat. That really, this article I found very, very powerful. The problem is that it has 43 tips on it. And I thought, okay, we're going to be here for 3 hours if I walk through 43 tips. But the benefit that the thing that I loved about this article was it was written really well. And the other thing is it has links to resources for every single point that it makes when it's talking about resume writing. So as you think about your resume, your CV, this magical thing that's going to get you into the position that you desire, there is so much that you can do, and there's so many mistakes that you can make on it that can eliminate you or not let you be considered. So if there's one tool that you are to spend time on, for me, it's the structure, the representation of you on a piece of paper. And then the other parallel to that is your LinkedIn, is that you have to make sure that your resume and your LinkedIn are synonymous, that they are talking to each other. So that when somebody is looking at your resume on paper and then they go over and they look at your LinkedIn is going to be kind of an expanded version of your one-page resume. And in this article, it actually talks a little bit about whether you do a one-page resume or a two-page resume. So thank you, Wilhelmina, for sharing that. But I'm just going to talk through a couple of these tips that are in here from my perspective in then adapting it to shipboard experience. So, and please, you guys, if you have a question, remember at the bottom of the call, you can use that little hand button. You just click on that and that'll pause me and you can ask. If I'm giving you advice that is contradictory to what you've heard before, ask the question because I want to be able to talk about it. And I'm not so naive to know that I'm by no means an HR or resume writing expert, but I'm somebody that at least has been on the receiving end of resumes in my career. So when I was at Royal, I did all of the hiring. We called it casting at the time for the entertainment department. I hired cruise directors, activities managers in my various roles at Royal. Because of the position that I was in, I just got inundated by people constantly giving me their resumes and asking me to hire them. And so that gives you the ability to start filter out which ones are the strong ones and which ones aren't. And your resume is really, it is something that people judge you off of. So if you have misspellings, if you have errors, if you don't have it formatted in a way that catches somebody's eye, then it's an easy way for you to get eliminated. So one thing that, as I look at my resume in retrospective, is one of their first points in this is don't try and cram every single thing into your resume. And this can kind of be a daunting task to think about because we want to use this piece of paper as, oh my gosh, this is all the things that I did and this is how amazing I am. But we really have to think like a journalist, that you have to go, what are the highlights, number one, of me as a candidate or as an individual? If a journalist were to interview me, what are the words that I use? What are the things that they would pull out? And those would be kind of your bullet points at the top of your resume. And that's one of the things that I've encouraged you guys to do is that, and it falls a little bit further down, is that when you're doing your resume, on the top, you want to make sure your name is big and bold across the top of that resume. And then the next thing, the other two most important contact informations is your telephone number and your email address, those two. I wouldn't put your physical address. You could maybe put Miami, Florida, USA, Sao Paulo, Brazil, so someone knew where you were. And you could put Sao Paulo, Brazil, put a line, put your phone number, put a line, put your email address to lay it out in that way. But I would encourage you to make sure that you're giving enough real estate to your name so that somebody can remember you. I see too many resumes where the name is the same size of font as everything else. It's embedded too deeply. You want to think like a journalist. This needs to be the headline of what you do. And the other thing that I see is that I would probably say 3 out of every 10 resumes that I see, the email is inappropriate. So it says like funkybuddha376@gmail.com. And I'm dead serious, you guys. People put their ridiculous Gmail or Hotmail from high school onto their resume. And for me as an employer, I'm not even going to call you because that just shows laziness, that you don't care about how you're coming across in profession. Like, just make sure that you go and you get a Gmail that is Christian Franco123@gmail.com. Mine is Barbara Kovas1. I don't have any Funky Buddha ones out there. But just make sure that your email, and that was one of the points that they brought up here, is really, really professional. And then underneath that, your name, your contact information, and your location is that in this article, they're saying ditch the objective statement. And I still see it, and I feel it's very antiquated on a lot of resumes. And I think there's two sides to it. So I'm going to pull up my LinkedIn and share my screen here. Oh, darn. So you have like 50, I have so many different profiles here that it doesn't know which place to sign in at. Okay, so I'm going to show you really quickly the kind of headline. Headline, bear with me. And again, like I said, I'm not the expert by any means on this, but I'm able to at this point is look at a resume and say, hey, this one seems to be one that's professional. This one seems to be one that's put together. Okay, so I'm going to go really quickly just to show you guys the overall. So as you think about your resume, think about your name is going to be the biggest thing. Obviously on LinkedIn, people have the way to contact you. Your contact information is a hyperlink there. Your location is right there. And when you click on LinkedIn, the contact information, it depends how much you guys want to put. And I've seen people forget to do this on their LinkedIn, is that when you click onto their LinkedIn, they haven't filled out this information so that it's open for public view. And so when you go and you try and contact them, Christian, can I look at yours? Are you gonna?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, so let's look at Christian's really quickly. If I click onto his contact information, great. He's got that there. He doesn't have a phone number on there. If you're looking for a job, you should have a phone number on it. Christian's not looking for a job, I hope, right now, because he works for me. Laugh, laugh, laugh. But this is really important, that if you are looking for a position, that your information that is here is something, because this is what people are going to check. They're going to check that the phone number that you put on here is consistent with the phone number that's on your resume. And I have my links to my thing, but obviously my purposes for using LinkedIn is different than yours. So then these are kind of your highlights. Right here, when you're looking at your paper resume, you're going to have your name, your contact information, and then you're going to have your bullet points. I like to do 6 bullet points. And so you're basically going to create 3 columns underneath your name, and you're going to do some of the things that you want to be highlighted. One of the things that is in this article and I'll share the article really quickly on the screen. One of the things that is mentioned in this article that I do think is very, very relevant is that they're basically telling you is that you should be adapting your resume. And I know you guys are going to roll your eyes and think about how daunting that is to the types of positions that you're applying to. But again, if you're one of those people that's just going out there and clicking apply on all of these jobs out there, you're not going to spend the time and do this customization. But really, truly, your efforts are not going to get you a lot in return, because you're just throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks. But what you should be doing is looking at the job description of the position that you're applying for, and you should be customizing those bullets across the top to what are the words and what are the skills that they are asking for. So if one of the key things is leadership experience or strategic, so you would be looking at that job description and looking at what the job responsibilities are, and under that, you would be pulling out, and I'm going to pull up a job. I just got a job description yesterday from someone who's asking me to refer. This is from Eric. That he sent me a job description for a senior manager of sales. So let me share really quickly, you guys. So this is from Starboard. It's a senior manager of sales. This is located in Florida, you guys. So this person has to be UA based. But I'm going to look at what the primary responsibilities of this individual is. And so, like, let's say that me, Barbara Kobos, I'm applying for this position. It's going to say lead and develop a team of onboard retail sales professional coping on the sales targets. So I would say, in my bullet points, I would put leader of onboard sales teams. So that would be my 3 words that I use: leader onboard sales teams, or developed onboard sales teams, because actually that was part of my world. Maintains positive production relationship, One of my jobs at Royal Caribbean was working with retail partners. So I would just say retail partner expert, something like that. Actively seek. So you're basically looking at what are the things that they are desiring for in this position. And like, they're responsible for creating a sales environment, contributing to definition of financial metrics. So I would put something finance related. So you're going to go through each one of these as you look at the job description. And this may feel daunting for you guys, but you can use tools like ChatGPT, where you can take this and you can copy and paste it, throw it into ChatGPT and say, hey, out of this, please give me 6 bullet points that relate to my job experience and my resume. But again, if you're taking your resume and your resume is not well written, then you're starting behind already. So your fundamental starting point is going to be making sure that your resume is bringing out these powerful statements of your experience as it relates to positions on land. So I'm going to share this tab really quickly because this is the article that I was just talking about. This is from a publication called The Muse, and they're kind of like a job search. They do coaching. They do jobs for individuals and for companies. So, but they have very, very good articles on there. So this is the first point that we talked about: not cramming every single skill into your resume. Just really keep it as a high-level overview of your qualifications. So first you're going to have name, next you're going to have your contact information, next you're going to have those bullets, and you're going to be customizing those bullets based on the positions that you are going to be applying for. And then the last thing is the objective statement. Is that on your LinkedIn that you're going to see that you have, and sorry, I'm looking on the I'm looking in my section, is you're going to have an about section. So dependent on how much real estate you have on your resume, I would make sure that on your resume nothing is below an 11-point font. Is that you can, this about statement, if you're going to have one in your resume, you want to make sure that it is the same one that is on your LinkedIn, because they are going to go and cross-reference that and they're going to take a look at it. So you want to make sure that your personality and who's coming across is consistent around the platforms that your employers are going to look at. And I would also say is that on your resume, at the top of your resume, it would be fantastic if you would, oh, thank you, Jose. Jose shared his resume with me. It would be fantastic if you look at Jose, yours looks great. I'll share this with you guys in a second. That it would be fantastic if you guys created a hyperlink to your LinkedIn. So let's look, because Jose has very generously sent me through his resume. Let's just look at his really quickly. So this is Jose. And Jose, what I would do here is I would create a hyperlink. So what you're going to do in your Word document is you're just going to right click and you're going to say insert hyperlink. And I'm going to go over here to, there he is, to look for, I'm going to look at his LinkedIn. And this is the thing right here that I'm going to put into that header of his name. Okay, Jose, you have some work to do on your LinkedIn, my friend. A little bit of work to do. So I want to see you put a header banner over the top. Let's check your contact information. Okay, he doesn't give me, I would like to have your phone number and your email address in there. So just look at your privacy settings, because you probably just have to unclick those. And then I want to see Jose put in here his summary, the summary that you guys saw on his resume right here. All he's got to do is copy and paste it, right? And put that into his LinkedIn. And really, truly, when you guys do your export of your resume from LinkedIn, I'll show you here, is that when you're going to your LinkedIn, I'm going to go to Barbara right here, is that when you are saving this to a PDF, when you're doing that, that should look just like your resume, okay? This is the one that LinkedIn makes for you, but it should be relatively consistent. LinkedIn adds a little bit more information than we actually need, but I would encourage you guys to make sure that you look at what's populating there. And I think this is 7 pages. This is crazy. I've got way too much copy on mine. But this is, by putting this onto your, by putting this onto the hyperlink onto your resume, then it allows your potential employers, if they want more information than in what is just your one pager, it allows them to click in and read the details. So Jose, in your instance, what I would do, is add the hyperlink here to your LinkedIn. This is great here. I think you could even make it a little bit shorter. But let's see, I would add a couple bullets at the top with your top skills, like maybe 6 bullets. So 2 here, 2 here, 2 here. And then I would definitely shorten these here. But on your LinkedIn, I would make sure all of this is on your LinkedIn. So that if somebody, you're going to give maybe 4 bullets for the most powerful, most important things that were related to this position. And from here, if they want more information about the specifics of what you did, then all of this information can go on your LinkedIn. And you guys, 9 times out of 10, an employer is going to look at your LinkedIn. And the thing that I would do is that and you've got really good, powerful words: managed teams, reviewed, responsible, ensured. This is great. Identified career path, but I would take, let's say you're going to take all of these bullets, put them somewhere else, and then you're going to rotate them through your resume based on the type of position that you're applying for. So if you're applying for a position that requires a lot of financial experience, that your bullet about your financial oversight of budgets over, I would assume in housekeeping, your budget is a couple $1 million. So you would put that very specific, oversaw budget of an annual budget of $8 million with 15 line items, something like that. So it shows the specifics and the complexities of what you did. If you're applying for a job that the financial is not that big, pull that out and rotate something else in. If it's a job that's focused on leadership, if it's a job that's focused on something else. So then same thing here is Hotel Acapulco. Again, I would, you're only at 2 pages here, so this is good, but I would almost, and this is one of the points in the article here, is that they talk about here is putting your best and most relevant information first. So, and I think that this is huge. When you guys think about, you always hear above the fold, and this used to be newspaper speak. So when you have the newspaper folded in half, right? You and it's sitting on the newsstand, you want your most important things above the fold. The same thing is to be said about web pages, is that in web pages today, you want everything above the fold before someone has to scroll down. And I'm going to show you really quick one of our companies and the website. Right now, websites used to be that you could scroll all the way down and go through pages and pages of content. Right now, the structure of websites, everything is above the fold. So people are clicking in to get more information, but everything is above the fold. Portfolio is above the fold. Blog is a little bit different, but the majority of the information is above the fold. And so think of your resume with the same context, is that you want to make sure that right here on Jose's resume, I need to be getting in his last 3 positions above the fold. So when somebody's opening it on their computer, and my computer right now is at 100%, ratio, is that I want a couple bullet points in there. And again, I said maybe shorten this a tiny bit, but I want to see maybe his last, for me, the last 10 years of experience is the most relevant. So I want to see the last 10 years of experience here. And I want to see them. So I would put 2 positions, probably, maybe, let's see. Yeah, because you had 20 years right there at Royal. So I would put, maybe 4 bullets here, and then I would put your next one. And what I would do here, Jose, is I would put Royal Caribbean International versus Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, because they changed their name. They're not Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines anymore. They're Royal Caribbean Group. But you worked for Royal Caribbean International, I'm pretty sure. And then I would hyperlink it to the website of Royal Caribbean International. And I would make sure that you hyperlink it to the corporate website, not to the one that's going to sell you cruises, because that's going to give somebody information on the type of company that you work for versus selling them cruises. And then, so above the fold is critically important. And then your most relevant information. And I'm going to show you here that your resume format is really, really important. There is a functional resume, a combination resume, and a reverse chronological. Usually, and right here, you'll see there's a link to a really good article, and I read this one. It's your complete guide to resume formats and how to pick the best one. The resume format that is the most universal that I would stick to, and it's a LinkedIn format, is the one that's chronological. So really make sure that you're doing this highlight of your skills at the top, and then you're going in order of what I did for the last 10 years. And then at the bottom, you're doing, and again, back to what we said, keep it concise. The 2-page resume is a hotly debated topic. It's up to you guys. I always had a 1-page resume and then a 2-page resume, but I would always try and keep the information of what you did super, super concise to pique interest, and then make sure you're having other sections. That's your education, that's your additional skills section. If you can get those all onto 1 page, that's critical. And then this is what we talked about, including relevant links. If you can't tell your entire story of what your experience is, link it to your LinkedIn. Link it to a link for Royal Caribbean, for example, is that you don't want to spend real estate on your resume talking about the size or the complexity of Royal Caribbean. You want to send them so that they can see, oh, he didn't work for this teeny tiny cruise line with 3 ships. He worked for one that has 25 ships. And then another useful thing is linking to, if you have a personal website, if you have an online portfolio, that's also very, very useful. And then you can also link it to examples of your work. So if you have something that you have on a Google document, you could link it to a project that you did. So increased revenue, an example of increased onboard activities revenue from X to X. So from 150,000 to 1 million is then you could have a hyperlink to a document that would then give details on the project or on what you did. It's kind of like you guys get emails all the time, marketing emails with people that talk about case studies. You're essentially doing all these little mini case studies on yourself, saying that, hey, this is an example of some type of work that I did. Just be really, really careful with any previous employers, is that you'll see on my LinkedIn, I think it is here. I think it was in my onboard revenue one, is here, is that I make sure and I put X million, X million, X million, so that I don't want to say how many. That's really confidential information for a cruise line. But if I'm in an interview, I can share it one-on-one with somebody. I just don't want to put it out there publicly for it to be confidential information that I'm sharing widely. So just be conscious of what you can put in your descriptions and what you can share to a greater audience, because again, your resume is going to look exactly like your LinkedIn, hopefully. And so you want to make sure that you are putting really truly the highlights. And you guys, we talked about ATSs before. This is your automated tracking, your applicant tracking system. So this is basically artificial intelligence that is reading your resume when you're applying somewhere. If you're applying on Indeed, if you're applying on a company website, most large companies or organizations are going to be using ATS to screen. So here is a tip for, and on our last, I think 2 webinars ago, we gave a couple links for applicants. I think it was 2 websites where they will screen your resume to make sure that nothing gets kicked out when you're applying for jobs. And then here's a link to an article about 8 secrets for making an ATS-friendly resume. So make sure you're doing those checks on your resume so that you're sure that at least it gets to the hiring manager. Because it may be something, and we've talked about this before, something as simple as you putting your picture on your resume that you shouldn't be doing, and it's getting your resume kicked out. And then you'll see here is that talking about ATSs, make sure that any of your formatting that you're doing on your resume is ATS-friendly designs, and here's a list of it. So these are some of the things that for these resume screening, and we have one through the platform that we use where we can just upload your resume and it's automatically going to parse in all your information on us, is that the more that you use bold and italics, underlining, colors, bullets, different text alignments, so you're bulleting in, tabbing in, then that's going to help it read your resume more effectively. And you'll see on Jose's, he's done this really well. So it's clearly that there's an experience section. He's doing a different color for the headline. He's doing a different color for the company. He's got the bullets here for his experience. And so that's the model that you want to follow when doing your resume. And then avoid elements that can't be read by computers. So tables, text boxes, logos, icons, images. And I think we've talked about this before, is that just make sure that you don't have too much fancy formatting on your resume that would get you into trouble. We talked about contact information. And again, this goes back to design your resume for skimmability. I don't know if you guys know that skimmability word. Is that basically above the fold, you want somebody to not have to work very hard to read your resume. You want quick, fast bullets. And in Jose, I'm going to challenge you that you have to work on your bullets a little bit. And you have to make them shorter and you have to make them more measurable. And so I think when you think about executive housekeeper for as long as he was, you oversee really complicated parts of the operation. So you should be able to have really quick measurable data to say, and let me see if I can find a couple bullets. You want to make sure that you're putting like one of the bullets that I have in mind is launched a new port and shopping program on board 11 ships within 90 days. So you want to make sure that you put these highlights to show what are the things that are super powered. Like this is a lot of work for somebody to manage teams of up to 200 people. Phenomenal. That's a perfect bullet. I would even add manage teams of up to 200 people and over 10 nationalities. Like you've hit two things in one and kept it at one sentence. So I think that's a really powerful thing that you could put, because that's something that you could, it's diversity and it's volume of your leadership skill. And then keep your work experience recent, relevant. And then this also goes back to making sure that you guys are highlighting what are the things that are important to the job that you are applying to. So have that big dump list of every single bullet of all the things that are relevant to your position, and pick and choose what are the most important things that get plugged in. And then we talked about writing your achievement focused bullet points. So make sure that these bullet points are specific, are actionable. So achieve number one in the fleet for 5 years running, something like that. Make sure that it gives a time and it gives a measure for how well you did over what period of time. Awarded ship of the year 3 years in a row. Department of the year, employee of the year, whatever those achievements are, because that's going to help somebody really truly see your headlines quickly. And this is it, they keep on saying it, use as many numbers as you can. Numbers, numbers, numbers. Don't just say, I oversaw, a large team, managed performance of complicated operations. That anybody could say that. You want to give very, very specific things. And this, my vetting thing when you do your bullet points is you want to ensure that no other human being could say that. So mine was launched an onboard shopping program on 11 ships within 90 days. It's highly unlikely that anybody else would be able to say that. Christian.
Barbara, quick thing. Do we also want to add the resumes that I've seen that really catch my attention are the ones that also that say measurable stuff that said, I helped increase revenue by 50% by doing this. And then like writing down what they did and how in numbers, now that you're mentioning numbers, how quantifiable it is, what their change or what they implemented during their time in that position to that company. And I find that extremely relevant and with a lot of weight in the resume.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that it's going to attract someone very, very quickly to the data. And for you knowing that you're measured, like you remember what you did. You remember what you did, you remember the specific, and also keep in mind, you guys, after you leave a job, you're going to start forgetting stuff really, really quickly. So you may even at this point, if you have gotten off of ships, a year, 2 years, 3 years ago, you may have to go back and start digging through some of your old files, and you're going to go, oh yeah, I forgot about this. I launched this operational efficiency program within and turn that into a bullet. And again, use ChatGPT to take something that is a long, 2-sentence explanation and say, turn this into a quantifiable bullet that I can put into my resume. Have it be 1 sentence. Christian,
and it's particularly challenging when your position, for example, has nothing to do with something financial. But at the end of the day, like every corporation that you're working for, everybody's into revenue. Like not every single job, even charities, they're into making money, right? So I think the challenge here it's finding how your entertainment background contributed to that revenue side of the operation.
Yeah, absolutely. And then this other one is talking about education and including your education. If you have, remember, put your experience first. Put your experience first. Put your education at the bottom later on. And you'll even see that in LinkedIn nowadays, all of your education is at the bottom. Anyways, it's under your experience. And again, look to LinkedIn as your guidepost to you're doing an about, you're doing your experience, and then you're doing your education right here, okay? And your education should be maybe 2 lines. I wouldn't overcomplicate it. And especially if you have been in the workforce for 20 years, your education is much less relevant than your experience at this point. And then also keep your education in reverse chronological order. So you should make sure that you put your most advanced degree first, and then just like your experience. And then remove the dates from your education section. And I think we had talked about this, is that unfortunately, you guys, if you are, over the age of 40, it is very possible that someone will discriminate you based on your age, which is illegal in the United States. We have the Equal Opportunity Employment Act. But unfortunately, globally, that's not the law. And so you do not have to put the dates, because what somebody will do is they will go in and they'll look at when you graduated high school, when you graduated college, and go, oh my gosh, this person is 60 years old, or this person's 55 years old, they're too old, and they're going to give you a bias. So I would just remove the dates, because it's not important, and it's very highly unlikely that somebody's going to ask you about it. And then make sure that you highlight honors and achievements. So whether that is on the educational front, or whether that is like Employee of the Year awards, or some, I was given an award by a charity that I work with. What was it? I don't remember what it was, Champion of the Year for Best Buddy. So I make sure to put those as awards, acknowledgements, something that just highlights that you are a person that the world sees, that does things. And also, if you guys were in ships for 10 years and you got a couple awards on ships, and now you're on land and you don't have any land-based awards or acknowledgements, is start working part-time with a nonprofit. Start volunteering once a month, twice a month with some type of organization that could use your skills. I think about, like, imagine the skills that Jose could bring to one of the places that I volunteer at is a women and children's shelter. And so they have housing actually for women and children. And I'm like, oh my gosh, a Jose of the world, what value he could add to their operation day to day in a women and children's shelter, because they serve meals, they do linens, they do all sorts of operational things. And just being able to go into those organizations, your ability to give back and serve is massive, but it also gives you the opportunity to be recognized by those organizations. And when you're recognized by those organizations, you're able to put that onto your resume. And I also really truly believe that it lifts the standard of humanity, is that, hey, if we don't have time to serve, then what are we doing? Imagine that if you just took the time that you are scrolling on social media and put that into serving, how different your life would be and other lives would be. And then the byproduct of that is that you get to really show on your resume and your experience what you do above and beyond just working. And then the other thing that's about education is, especially if you have been out of college for a long time, is include any online education. But I would encourage you is make sure that if you're including any online education, that it's from reputable sources. Is that last week we talked about Coursera.org. Coursera is an amazing free platform that offers education. So and we talked about Google. Google has a ton of free education. So if you go on and you take Google's machine learning class, make sure that you put that on your resume, because I think that is incredibly, incredibly powerful for somebody to go that you're continuing your education, but you're continuing it in ways that are incredibly relevant for the industry that you're going to be in, for what the world is becoming today, that you're not just somebody that's sitting on the sidelines. And I know Royal Caribbean had the Cambridge program. I know on Coursera, they have a bunch of Harvard and Princeton courses. And so take courses from universities that are reputable so that you can use that name on your LinkedIn and you can use that on your resume. Do we have any questions at this point? We're at about like 45 minutes in, and so I want to make sure. And actually, we're making good progress. Any questions? No? Okay, good. Let's see, we talked about certifications and licenses. And then this is the other thing that I just think is really important. is show some things in activities, interest, something that shows your personality. So in here, you'll see I have my education section right there. I put license and certification. These are some of the classes that I took. I did a Google Digital Excellence. I did a Growing Minority Business to Scale. Unfortunately, these didn't have logos. I would like to change that so it looks nicer. And then I put my volunteering in there. And then these are the skills. And remember, these skills are the things that are going to show up when you export your resume. But your volunteering or your hobbies or the things that interest you, it really shows you as a well-rounded person. And the example that I gave is when I was helping somebody with a resume ages ago, the lady was heavily involved in her church. And again, this is one of the things that I think is really, she didn't want to put it on her resume because she was worried somebody would discriminate against her. I think she was a Jehovah's Witness, or I don't remember what organization she was involved in. But I said, how important is this in your life? And she would spend like 4 days a week, 4 nights a week at this organization. And I said, would you want to work for somebody that's going to discriminate against you? I would rather have them eliminate me in the application process because their values don't align with mine than have to end up working for them, because no job is worth working for somebody like that doesn't full well-rounded love and care about who you are. So whether it's a religious belief, whether it's a volunteer something, if you're Muslim, like I think that's a great example. If you're Muslim and it's a really big, important part of your life, put member of the Muslim Association of X, Y, whatever it may be. And for me personally, and some other job coaches may debate me, but for me, I want to make sure that the company that hires me is hiring me and allowing me to show up as my full person, that I can be comfortable in the workplace to talk about who I am, and just be open, because I just think that you never live your best life if you're trying to hide something from your employer. And look, the next point is be aware of interests and activities that be controversial. He talks about this. Let's see what they say. So weigh your decision on whether to include them carefully. And for me, I'm on the extreme that you include them and you show who you are, because I also think that when you do that, you inspire other people to share and be open and honest. And one of my jobs that I applied for, I'm very intentional that on my it was in my education. I went to a Christian college, and so I make sure that I put that this is a Christian college, it teaches about this and this, because it's an important part of who I am. And that the gentleman who was hiring me, he immediately honed in on it, because it was so out of the ordinary for somebody to do that. And he was like, tell me a little bit more about your college and the church that it was. And he was interested. And so I just shared it. And it gave me an opportunity to become personal, so he could see my values, so he could see my belief system. And normally when you're in an interview, it's so static and boring and unmemorable, that your goal in this is that you want to be memorable. And how do you become memorable is when you show up in an authentic way and somebody connects to you. So your resume, your LinkedIn is just one step in doing that. And for me, at least personally, I'm bored of seeing boring LinkedIn. Like, it's just boring to look. I want to see what somebody's extracurricular is. I want to see, that's why I put the thing about my, one of my jobs on my LinkedIn is being a mom. Because for me, being a mom is important. I'm not embarrassed about being a mom. I think that my job as a mother and as a parent is really, really incredibly important. And I want anybody who works for me to know that I'm going to prioritize, being there for my kids' sporting events, being there for birthdays, being there for family travel things. And I'm not going to hide that as part of my life. Guys, I've been on a pulpit preaching a little bit today. And if you have gaps in your employment, and I don't think a lot of you do, but I think maybe post-COVID, that could be something that a lot of shipboard people have, gaps in their employment. So after, you went home or during COVID, maybe you had this gap of time where you did virtual work. So if you have gaps, you don't have to list the usual start dates and end dates for the months and the year. If you kind of did gig work for a season, use only, let's look at COVID 2020 until 2022, a virtual assistant or something. Just be prepared that in your interview that you have your talking points so you can talk to it. And then serial job hopping is another point that they bring up, is that make sure that in your resume that if you moved between jobs, that you explain why you had those moves, so that you don't allow the person that's going to hire you to make those assumptions. So let's say that your resume gets through the ATS and gets to the employer, and you're in every single job that you had for 18 months or for 2 years. And I had that happen in my career. But the reason that I had those short stints was because I got promoted, because I did really well in my job and I got offered another job. So I made sure that I put a bullet that said moved due to promotion. So I moved from a specialist from a consultant to a specialist to a manager to a senior manager to a director. So I wanted to make sure that people knew it wasn't that I wasn't doing well in my job. It was just that I was actually the reverse. And so make sure that you're really clear so that they don't make those assumptions for you. And it could be a layoff due to, the company closing, to economy issues or whatever. Like, somebody's going to look at your resume, and if you put layoff due to downsizing in 2008, they're going to know why, because the economy took a massive tank in 2020. That you left the cruise line because of COVID. Like, that's okay. You could have had a relocation because of a spouse or something like that. Put that in there. And then this says ditch the references available upon request. Typically, when you're going through the application process, they're going to put references, a references section in there, or when you get to the interview phase, then they're going to ask you for references if they require it. So don't worry about that section. And then the last two things is about proofreading. And I know we've talked about this. Proofread. Don't ask people for feedback on your resume that don't know resumes. Don't ask them for it. Please, por favor, is that you want to ask them to look for typos. And frankly, you can use ChatGPT today to do that for you. To proofread your resume and catch any errors and then lastly is that make sure that when you are submitting your resume is that you're converting it from a Word document to a PDF. Thank you to the amazing Jose who did that for me. He sent it to me in both formats. Let me show you really quickly. Look, he gave me the Word version and he gave me his PDF version. Kudos to him. You guys want to make sure that you have both versions of that. And then name your file clearly. So let's see how Jose did. Yep, he said he put his full name, Jose Pinto Jr., resume 23. And you can even put in the title of it what the position is that you're applying for if you want to. So that would really be if you're customizing your position. So if you're applying for, if Jose is applying for a general manager role, then he would have a general manager version of his resume. If he's applying for an executive housekeeper, you'd have an executive housekeeper. If he's applying for a virtual assistant, he would have a virtual assistant role format. And just looking at his experience, like if he was to apply for a VA type of position, that would look like a very different resume, highlighting very different skills that he has. I have no question in my mind that he could be a VA, but just think about the difference in what his resume would look like if he was applying to be a GM at a hotel compared to being a VA. So just remember to do those adaptations, and then this is just the titling of your resume. And then I would really encourage you guys to read this article and to make sure that you look through all of the links that are in here, because I found this incredibly useful. There's some, I wouldn't take 100% of the tips in there, but this is about, it's called CANI, C-A-N-I, continuous and never-ending improvement. Is that, why are you laughing, Wilhelmina? CANI, it's just an expression that we always use, is that you always have to be open So constantly adapting and improving what you're doing. You know, I'm not looking for a job, but I look at my LinkedIn. I made tweaks last week, I think, to my LinkedIn. Oh, I know why, because we got one of our businesses got certified as women in business owned. And so I went through and did the tweaks to it, uploaded the logos, and I just think this continual investment in yourself, continually editing, because you really truly are the product that you're selling. Everybody's looking at my LinkedIn on, you know, people are looking at it at a daily basis. Same for you. As you start chatting, as you start connecting with people online, as you start applying for jobs, people are going to be looking at it. So you need to be setting aside, even if it's 10 minutes a day, how you can do little tweaks. Take a section of your resume, have ChatGPT reword it for you, do a different header banner, do a different headshot. And actually, I just used an AI website the other day that it gives you a white background on your photos. So if you have a photo of yourself that you want to use as your headshot, but it has, like, you know, your bedroom in the background, but you like how you look, you can just now upload it into a website and it will give you a blank background. So make sure that you're just constantly improving and tweaking, and really thinking about your vision for the future of what your job is going to be, your experience from the shifts, and making sure that you're communicating it in a way that gives you the credibility that you deserve. So make sure that you're going, okay, this is the type of job that I envision myself in, a virtual job that has management level expertise or experience, that has this type of a boss, that has this type of pay. Like, really truly get your mindset into the reality that you want to create. Then that's going to give you the fire and the motivation to update your LinkedIn, to update your resume for that person that you're seeing as the future. So Christian, do you have anything else to add?
No, I mean, all this is extremely valuable. It's stuff that we know, but now that you're compiling it all and put it all together, it's great insight. Just one quick question: when we're doing, and this is very technical, when we export something into PDF, will it save with the links? Because you mentioned hyperlink.
Yeah, it should.
So you say this, and then anyone can click on it as long as they have it as a PDF.
Yep.
Original PDF,
Yep.
I would say, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I can show you guys really quickly. You guys can find it online, obviously. I'll just share my screen very, very quickly for anybody that doesn't know how. You guys, and all the stuff exists on YouTube. It's not just for me. So that when you guys are here, you're going to click down and you're going to click PDF document. The same exists in Word. This is Google Docs. And then it's literally going to spit out the document in PDF. And again, if you guys are going to do a hyperlink, I'm going to work that Ola Inc. Let's say that I search. Then you're going to highlight the word. And please, I'm really particular. Then you're going to click that hyperlink button, that little one, and you're going to put www.olainc.com, and then boom, your hyperlink is there, right? And then when you export it to Word, it will appear. But also check it. Make sure that you check your hyperlinks. And the same thing when you do yours, sometimes it will create the hyperlink automatically. Sometimes it won't. So just keep a very close eye on that. Is that insert the hyperlink if it doesn't create it automatically.
And it comes along with being extremely careful, because there's nothing worse than going into a website that has broken links or the pages that can't be found and stuff that, like you said, it's little things. Tailor it and make sure that we need to make sure that everything is working and flawlessly connected.
Yeah, and it's just a reflection of you. It's like you guys really, truly, if you're not spending time checking every single detail on yourself personally, then why would you do that when I hire you? So just your resume, your LinkedIn, all of that stuff is a reflection of your credibility, of how hard you are as a worker. But the truth is, unfortunately, we spend more time on other people's things than we do on ourselves. And so it's this really reverse psychology that you have to work on and make sure you do. I mean, I know the Christians kicks butt and does so much for me and worries about my organizations and worries about everything that I do. And then I have to push him to do his LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
I say that with pure love. Is that, and I'm sure he's like, oh, I don't want to do my LinkedIn because then Barbara's going to think I'm looking for a job. But at the same time, I'm like, no, it's important that you're a representation of who you are. Wilhelmina's the same. I think you're guilty too, Wilhelmina. So because they're so dedicated to their jobs and what they do, and I absolutely love that. But especially when you're in the job search, is that it's critical. It's critical that you guys do this and spend time on it, because it's a reflection of. So if you are looking for a job, you need to be spending an hour a day. If you're just maintaining, you need to be doing 10 minutes a day. That would be my huge recommendation.